liberties, while the directive principles in Part 4 guide the state in making policies that promote social and economic justice. They all work together to make that vision of equality from the preamble a reality.
It's like a three-legged stool. You need all three. The preamble, fundamental rights, and directive principles to have a stable and equitable society.
Perfect analogy. Now let's move to that last objective, fraternity. Does it just mean, be nice to each other?
Well, I was going to ask if it's about, like, holding hands and singing Kumbaya, but I figure it's deeper than that.
You're right, it is. Fraternity, as it's meant in the preamble, it goes much deeper. It's fostering a sense of brotherhood, solidarity among all Indians. Doesn't matter your religion, language, region, caste, anything.
So recognizing our shared humanity, building a nation where everyone feels like they belong, even with all our diversity.
Exactly. It's that idea of unity and diversity that India is known for. The preamble emphasizes this fraternity should ensure the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. Those two go hand in hand. A nation can only be truly unified when everyone feels respected, valued.
It's a powerful message, especially these days when things feel so divided. So the preamble lays out these big objectives, but how are they, put into practice? Are they legally binding? Can you go to court and say, hey, you're violating my fraternity?
Great question. It gets to the heart of the preamble's legal standing. The preamble itself, it's not directly enforceable in court, but it shapes how the Constitution is interpreted. It's like the North Star guiding the legal system towards those values in the preamble.
So it's a guiding principle, not a set of rules you can just quote in court.
Right. It sets the tone, the direction for the whole Constitution, influences how laws are made and interpreted. And there have been some big Supreme Court cases that show how important the preamble is. For example, the Berubari Union case back in 1960.
Right.
They initially said the preamble wasn't even part of the Constitution.
Wait, seriously, there was a time when the preamble wasn't considered part of the Constitution at all. How could they just ignore something so fundamental?
Well, the court's initial take was based on a very narrow reading of the text. But even then, they admitted the preamble was important for understanding the Constitution's objectives.
So even when it wasn't technically in the Constitution, it still mattered?
Oh, absolutely. Its influence was clear. Then came the Kesavananda Bharati case in 1973.
Oh, yeah.
The Supreme Court changed its stance completely, declared that the preamble is an integral part of the Constitution, a huge shift that solidified the preamble's legal importance.
That's quite a turnaround. So did the preamble suddenly become like a law you could cite directly in court?
Not quite. It's used to interpret other parts of the Constitution, to guide legal decisions. But it's not enforceable the same way specific articles are. Think of it like this. It provides the context, the big picture framework for how laws are made and interpreted. It helps judges understand the spirit, the intent behind the Constitution.
The why behind the what, basically. It tells us what we're aiming for as a nation.
Exactly, the why, those underlying values and goals, while the rest of the Constitution lays out the how, the specific ways to achieve them.
This is really helpful, especially for someone like me trying to get a handle on Indian polity.
Yeah.
It's like the preamble unlocks a whole new level of understanding.
Glad you're finding it useful. And for those UPSC folks out there, getting the nuances of the preamble is absolutely key.
Yeah.
It's often the basis for essay questions, where you have to show a deep understanding of its principles and how they apply to real issues.
So it's not just memorizing words, it's grasping their deeper meaning, how they shape India's legal and political landscape.
Exactly, connecting the dots, seeing how the preamble's ideals show up in everything, from fundamental rights to how institutions work. It's understanding the big picture of Indian democracy.
All right, now that we've established the preamble is part of the Constitution, can it be amended like other parts?
Yes, but not easily. Parliament has the power to amend the Constitution, but any change, even to the preamble, can't violate the basic structure of the Constitution.
Basic structure, I hear that term a lot. What does it actually mean? How does it relate to changing the preamble?
The basic structure doctrine is fascinating. It's about the core values and principles of the Constitution. Things like democracy, secularism, federalism, separation of powers. The Supreme Court has said Parliament can't amend the Constitution in a way that changes or destroys this basic structure.
So some lines you just can't cross, even with a majority vote in Parliament.
Right. The basic structure doctrine protects those fundamental values from, arbitrary changes. And this applies to the preamble, too. Any changes have to be in line with that basic structure. It can't be used to undermine those core principles it embodies.
So it's a powerful check on Parliament's power, making sure the Constitution stays true to its core values.
Yeah.
Has the preamble ever been amended?
Just once, remember? Socialist, secular, and integrity.
Yeah.
They weren't originally there. They were added by the 42nd Amendment in 1976.
Ah, right. So the words we see today, they reflect both history and how values change. It's amazing how a document written decades ago can still be relevant and adapt to a nation's changing needs.
Absolutely. The preamble shows the foresight of the people who wrote the Constitution. They created something that could evolve, adapt to new times, while staying true to its core principles. It's dynamic, constantly being interpreted in light of new challenges and realities.
And for those prepping for the UPSC, understanding that dynamic between the preamble and the changing legal and political landscape, that's crucial. It's not just memorizing, it's understanding its spirit, its relevance to India today.
Couldn't agree more. The preamble's a treasure trove for anyone wanting to understand Indian democracy. It deserves to be read, thought about, debated. It invites us to engage with that vision of India it lays out.
I'm definitely feeling inspired. We've covered so much, but it feels like we're just getting started.
And that's the great thing, isn't it? The preamble starts a lifelong journey of exploration, discovery. It keeps us engaged with those ideals it embodies.
So I guess that's the end of part 2 of our deep dive into the preamble. Just stick around, we've got one more segment left. We'll wrap things up and leave you with some final thoughts to chew on. And we're back, folks. Still diving deep into the preamble of the Indian Constitution. It's amazing how this one paragraph has been like a guiding star for India for so long.
Yeah, over 70 years, it's a compass, always pointing to the nation India wants to be.
You know, it's incredible how much we've uncovered in just one paragraph. So much depth. It's clear that understanding the preamble is really key to getting Indian polity and governance, but something's been bugging me. If it's so important, why isn't it talked about more? It feels like it's overshadowed by other parts of the Constitution.
That's a good point. Legal experts and those prepping for exams like the UPSC, they really dig into it.
Right.
But the general public might not, fully grasp its significance, maybe because it's seen as aspirational, a statement of ideals, not so much concrete laws.
I see what you mean. People focus on the what, the specific laws, instead of the why, the thinking behind them.
Exactly, but that why is crucial for everyone. It helps us understand this whole complex legal and political system. It empowers us to actually discuss, where our nation is headed. Reminds us that we're all part of this experiment, India.
It's like having a map but no idea where you're going.
Yeah.
The preamble gives us the destination, the vision for our journey.
Perfect analogy. It tells us where we want to be, the kind of society we're building, and for those UPSC folks, understanding that vision is huge.
Yeah.
It touches every part of the syllabus, from how institutions function to analyzing those socioeconomic challenges.
So it's not just memorizing, it's connecting the dots, seeing how those preamble principles play out in real life, in Indian society.
Precisely. It's about getting the spirit of the Constitution, the values in every law. And don't forget, preamble questions pop up all the time in the UPSC exam. They want you to go beyond the surface, show you really get how those principles work in real-world situations.
So it's about critical thinking, analysis, making those connections between theory and practice. The big picture, not just memorizing facts.
You nailed it. And beyond exams, understanding the preamble is about being an informed citizen, holding our leaders accountable, having real discussions, contributing to making India better.
It's like a call to action, right? We're not just watching, we're shaping our nation's future.
Beautifully said. The preamble isn't just history. It's a commitment to building a more just, equitable, and fraternal society, something to be read, understood, and valued by every Indian.
Well said. I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the preamble. It's been quite a journey, exploring the foundation of our republic, the hopes that guide us.
It's been a pleasure, really, exploring these principles with you. And for our listeners, hopefully this deep dive has got you thinking, giving you some insights. Keep exploring the Constitution, its history. It's the key to understanding India, all its complexities and potential.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep learning.